to the Victory Broadcast. If this ministry has impacted you in any way, please consider supporting the spread of the gospel by visiting us online and choosing the giving option that works best for you. Now we pray that this message will stir your heart and build your faith. Get ready to receive the Word of God.
Welcome to all of you, our church family, and everybody watching online. If you could just turn me down right here, Victoria. Thank y'all. Thank you. For those who may be watching from, you can stay there, Sam. Yeah. Who may be watching from Connections United Methodist. Those of you who I may have met on Saturday morning who may be watching this message right now, I just want to let you know that I'm praying for you as I'm praying for my own self and my family. And I want to thank all of you in our church and those of you who watch in other cities who have been praying for me and my family and sending us messages of condolences and your support. My stepsister, who would be preaching this morning, is not here. She was in a counseling session with a former inmate, a prisoner, who overpowered her, and he bludgeoned her to death with a kitchen knife. And we found her on Turn Me Down right here, Victoria. We found her on Thursday in some remote place off of Panola Road. She was a minister of the gospel. She loved people. And she was trying to help someone who took her life. She's left behind 2 daughters who have been very traumatized, and her husband, my brother. And a lot of you have sent me text messages and have written on my social media, sending your condolences. I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart for your prayers and for your support. The scriptures encourage us to lean into the sufferings of others, brothers and sisters. It says that we are supposed to mourn with those who mourn and weep with those who weep. And I think it's important for us to do that. If any of you have family members or friends who are suffering, because when you go through dark seasons and you walk through difficult places, you remember those who leaned into that suffering with you. And sometimes you don't need counsel, you just need the ministry of presence. You just need people to acknowledge that they care. That gives us strength. And so, if you've wrote on my social media page, or if you've sent me a text message, I want to tell you thank you. I really was tempted to just not be here, to just check out, because I don't feel well. I feel angry. And I feel distraught, confused. And when I just thought about the series, I knew that I had to be here for you. Because I have to close out this series for you. And this message for you. So we are in the second to last week of a series called Real Encounters. And we are looking at 6 historical encounters that Jesus had with 6 people, and kind of just leaning into how he worked in the lives of these 6 people, transforming their lives. I think that we see a lot of us in these encounters, and I pray that some of you have found hope during this series. And as we're approaching the end of the series, I just want to keep leaning in every week to glorify the Lord Jesus Christ. And I pray that this particular message in the series would be a catalyst for some of you who the Lord can see is in need of healing or a touch from him. And so, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus, we thank you for your presence that is here right now, and ask that in my weakness you would minister to your people. That you would minister to the people at my stepsister's church. All of those believers who are suffering this morning. Not that far from here. I pray you would strengthen them. I pray you would comfort them. I pray they would not lose hope in you because of this tragic incident. I pray that they would not be angry at you because of this tragic incident. For you are not the author of evil. But you are great enough to work through it for ultimate good. Though my sister suffered, I thank you that she's crowned in glory. That she has received the rewards of her Christian service. As she leaves behind, Lord, my nieces who are suffering and my brother who is suffering, I thank you for the comfort of heaven, the hope of eternity, that we too will finish our Christian labors and be united with her again in glory. I thank you for the hope of the scriptures and the strength of the Holy Spirit. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Thank you, Sam. I think one of the most difficult things for any human being to ever deal with in this life is the onset of trauma. Trauma. Often trauma is unseen. It can enter our lives through a sudden and extremely painful circumstance. The death of a loved one or the murder of a loved one. Sexual abuse. An abusive marriage, an abusive relationship. The loss of assets or a job, a house. A troubled past. A dysfunctional home. People suffer trauma from abandonment. Parents who failed them, painful betrayals, negative words that we heard in our past, or a series of uncalculated or poor decisions. Other times, the onset of trauma can enter someone's life through an unexpected injury or a sickness or a doctor's report. On March 22nd of 2021, I suffered an audio injury to my left ear that damaged my hearing in my left ear. I no longer have 100% hearing in my left ear and left me with a very serious case of tinnitus, a high-frequency noise that I hear all the time. The doctors told me that the damage was permanent and irreversible. And I remember sitting down in my basement and thinking to myself, there's no way possible a human being could survive a lifetime with that noise in your head. I had contemplated thoughts of suicide at the time because the noise was so tormenting. I had to retrain myself how to think with that noise. I had to retrain myself how to read with that noise. I had to retrain myself how to write sermons with that noise. I had to retrain myself how to study and how to focus with that noise. I had to train myself how not to be afraid of silence. Is when it torments me the most. When everything is silent is when it's overwhelming with that noise. I sleep with a little machine by my bedhead that makes the sound of water to help me go to bed. And for a whole year, I have been dealing with that injury. I have to wear earplugs when I put on headphones or earplugs when I'm around noise. That was unforeseen trauma that I'm dealing with even to this day, some year and a few months later. Even more crushing than dealing with unforeseen trauma is when trauma is compounded by time. In the early 90s, one of the most renowned actors in our nation was a man named Michael J. Fox, who I grew up watching him on a show called Family Matters and Family Ties. And he was known for his famous roles in the movies Back to the Future. 1, 2, and 3, if you've seen those movies. He was the main actor in those movies, Michael J. Fox. At the time, there were fewer names in Hollywood that was more renowned than Michael J. Fox. And in 1991, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He was newly married at the time. If you're unfamiliar with Parkinson's disease, it is a progressive brain disorder that slowly strips away a person's ability to move and their ability to speak. So over a period of time, they lose motion over their limbs and they lose their ability to communicate. It was a heavy burden for his wife and a heavy burden for his family and for himself. And it was the diagnosis that rocked Michael's life. And for Fox, 1 year of dealing with Parkinson's turned to 3 years. And 3 years of dealing with Parkinson's and the trauma to his marriage turned to 5 years. 5 years of dealing with Parkinson's disease turned to 7 years. Still no healing, and 7 years turned to 10 years. 10 years of dealing with Parkinson's disease turned to 12 years. And 12 years of dealing with that disease turned to 15 years. 15 years turned to 20. 22 years, 25 years. He's been dealing with this trauma for 30 years. For 3 decades of his life has been stripped away from him because of Parkinson's disease. We think about the stress that has caused on him and his career and his marriage and his mind and his heart and his well-being. For 3 decades, Michael J. Fox has been dealing with Parkinson's disease. And as I thought about Michael J. Fox, I thought to myself, just in this own church or somebody watching me online, man, the same thing happens to so many people who have been battling trauma mentally and emotionally without any form of healing for some extended period of time. For some of us, if we'll be honest, we know people, if we're not sitting in this room, have been dealing with trauma for decades. Something that happened to you when you was a child has affected you as an adult. Now, I want y'all to think with me for just a second, right? Let's not be overly spiritual. Let's be human beings. Like, what happens to a person that deals with trauma for an extended period of time? What kind of things do they deal with in our humanity? I'm going to tell you some of the things I dealt with in just a year of dealing with the audio injury to my ear. But think about someone like Michael J. Fox, or anyone sitting in this room right now has been dealing with trauma for an extended period of time, or somebody you know or love who has been dealing with trauma for an extended period of time. What happens to people like that? They get cold. They get tired. They get depressed. They get hopeless. They become distant. They disconnect from other people. They push people away. They get frustrated. They get angry. They deal with discouragement, weariness. They get tired. Some of them deal with loneliness because they push people away, or loneliness because sometimes people don't want to be near someone that's dealing with serious trauma. They get bitter and mad at God for allowing them to suffer. Has not healed me yet. And they get angry. Where is God right now in all my trauma? Like, where are you right now? They get bitter. They get mad at God. They disconnect from churches and from religion. They walk away from faith. They get disillusioned in their mind. They get hopeless and turn to suicide. Some people have taken their life because of trauma. I was sitting in my basement thinking I can't live with that noise in my ear for my entire life and I'm the pastor of the church. Like, I don't know if I can last. I'm a young man. I can't last until I'm an old man dealing with that noise in my ear. What if the Lord does not heal me? I got to train myself to rethink with just that noise in my ear all the time. People get disillusioned. They lose hope. They give up. They commit suicide. How about this one I heard nobody say? They drift towards acceptance. Nobody said that. They drift towards acceptance. It will always be this way. My circumstance will never change. This problem will never change. This issue will never change. The Lord will never come through for me in this area. How about acceptance? Sometimes it's worse than anything else. Watch. It's just now a part of who I am. It becomes a part of my identity. Right? Acceptance. My situation will never get better. In the first century, Jesus met a man who had been suffering with a long-term trauma. In my estimation, I think it's one of the most memorable and one of the most perplexing encounters he's ever had. The passage I'm going to read to you today, I'm going to read to you from the New King James Version of the Bible. I normally teach from an ESV because it is more closely connected to the original manuscripts of the scriptures. It's a more accurate translation of the original manuscripts, is why I use the ESV. However, today I want to read to you from the King James because there is a verse that will not be found in the ESV. It is not in original translations for a reason. It does appear in the King James, and I'm using the King James or the New King James so I can touch that verse for a reason and for a purpose that's going to help somebody this morning, which is my prayer. The person who recorded the encounter was a man named John, an early disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, an eyewitness of his ministry. And in John chapter 5, verse 1 through 14, John recorded this encounter that Jesus had with this man. He said, after this, in verse 1, that is, if you read the previous chapter, he had healed the son of an official. There was a great feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there are feasts in the Jewish culture, and Jewish men were required to go up to Jerusalem for 3 feasts. Of the many feasts, they were required to go to Jerusalem for 3 feasts. Okay, the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Pentecost, which some of you are familiar. The church was born during the Feast of Pentecost, Acts chapter 2, and also the Feast of Passover. And anytime you read about Jerusalem, they say they went up to Jerusalem. I've been to Israel. Jerusalem sits on a hill. So the only way to get to Jerusalem, you have to go up. And when you read Jerusalem, you have to go down. I think God did that on purpose. Okay. Verse 2. And now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. Now, when I was in Israel, I took a picture of this pool. I think they have that. I want to show you a picture of this pool. Do they? Let's go ahead and put that on the screen if you have a picture of the pool. This is a pool that's in Jerusalem called the Pool of Bethesda. I snapped this picture when I was in Israel in 2018. This pool was found underground, and so they removed all the dirt, and you can see that there's a colonnade right here. Okay. In this pool, it was about 2 to 3 feet deep, and the pool can fit maybe about 300 or 400 people in that pool. And there was an underground spring that ran into that pool, and this pool sits in Jerusalem at the foot or the mount of where the temple used to be. So not far from the Temple Mount, where I see the Dome of the Rock, this pool is not far from the Temple Mount. And there are gates in the wall of Jerusalem, the old gates. This one was called the sheep gate, where they would lead sheep through, wash them in the pool, and then take them up to the temple for sacrifice. It was a very large area. It was covered by these colonnades adjacent to the temple. And this pool of Bethesda, the word Beth in Hebrew means house. The name pool of Bethesda, Bethesda means mercy. So this pool in Hebrew was called the pool or the house of mercy. Just like Bethel, Beth-El means house of bread. Bethsaida, where he found disciples, is house of fish. So this pool was called the house of mercy. Okay? House of mercy, verse 3. In these lay a great multitude of sick people. This word sick in the Greek is also translated impotent or weak. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed, waiting on the moving of the water. Now this place in history would often be packed with hundreds of people. Notice John said a detail in the text that it was during a Jewish feast, which means thousands of people would have been in Jerusalem. So this pool at this time maybe would have swelled, maybe over 1,000 people would have been sitting in this pool. Okay? It was covered by colonnades or by a roof supported by 5 pillars where people can gather underneath the roof to be protected from the rays of the sun. So in this pool would just be packed into this area, hundreds of sick people at this pool. In those days, in the first century, sick people was treated very, very poorly. They would just discard them. They're not taking them to a hospital. We're not caring for them if they were sick. They would just be outcasts. The dregs of society would spend all their time hanging out at places like this. And people who were well would always walk past places like this. They would never go down to places like this because it was infected with diseases and ran over by sick people. So people who were well would avoid places like this. I was thinking about the pool of Bethesda, just meditating on this passage, and I thought to myself, man, this place means the house of mercy, but it's packed with sick people. The house of mercy, but is packed with people who are not well. And I thought about this, like, historically, I understand it, but then I thought about this, Inez, metaphorically. The name of this place was the house of mercy, and it's packed with people who are not well. It's the house of mercy, and it's packed with people who are not well. It's the house of mercy, and it's packed with people who are not well. It's going to register in somebody's spirit in just a moment. It's the house of mercy, and it's packed with people who are not well. It's the house of mercy, and it's packed with people who are not well. It is the house of mercy. It's going to register in a second. And it's packed with people who are not well. It is the house of mercy. And it's packed with people who are not well. I thought about a modern day house of mercy. Gosh. We're sitting in one right now. They're all up and down this street on Perry Boulevard. They're dotted across Atlanta. They're all across the country, houses of mercy packed with people who are not well. All across this country. As I'm preaching to you right now, there are houses of mercy all across this country packed with Christians who are not well. Packed with unbelievers who are not well. There are people sitting in this room right now who are not well. Your outfit is well. Your makeup is well. Your hair is well. Your Instagram is well. You, my sister, you, my brother, are not well. And all across this country, there are people sitting in churches right now, listening to sermons every Sunday, reading books and listening to podcasts, packed houses of mercy, where people are not well. And who was sitting under those colonnades? The same people sitting in the church. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed, the blind. People going to church and can't see right, can't perceive right, don't see God right, don't see the scriptures right, don't have a proper worldview or biblical worldview, so you don't respond to social issues right. You don't care about what's going on in politics or how they're trying to muzzle the Bible. You don't lean into that stuff because you don't see the society right. Don't see Christendom right. Don't see the gathering of the saints right. Don't see preaching right. Don't see godly relationships right. We know it by the way that you live. You don't see the things of God right. You don't even honor the things of God. You don't even see him right. He's not sacred. He's your homeboy. He's not sacred. You don't fear him. Ain't no fear of God. You do what you want. You live how you want and claim Christianity because you don't see God right. You forgot that he's holy. And he's always watching. We don't even see God right. The church, the houses of mercy are full of people who are blind. No? Not true? Full of people who are lame. You know what a lame person is? A person who's impaired by a weakness, an injury. Watch. Trauma. Traumas that affect your well-being. I'm talking to some of you. I'm in your neighborhood. houses of mercy full of people who are lame have been affected. Their ability to move forward and progress has been affected. They're stuck in the past. Trauma that has appeared, some of us mentally. There are people in here are dealing with serious mental trauma that makes us lame. There are people listening to me right now that are dealing with serious emotional trauma that makes you lame. Some of us have been lame since childhood because of some injury from our past or something that happened in our upbringing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of us are lame because of adult trauma. Some of us are lame because of childhood trauma. Can I go deeper? Some of us are lame because of self-inflicted trauma. Philip Anthony Mitchell, bad decisions that have made you lame. Not progressing as fast as I could because of trauma. Not believing as strong as I could because of trauma. Not connecting with God as deep as I could because of trauma. Not trusting people around me because of trauma. Poor relationships because of trauma. Surface relationships because of trauma. Always saying bless the Lord but dying on the inside because of trauma. Poor marriages because of trauma. Poor relationships with our family because of trauma. Poor relationship with yourself because of trauma.
Jesus Christ.
The laundry list of regrets and pain we're dealing with right now in our current circumstances because of self-inflicted trauma. Philip Anthony Mitchell, nobody else. I'm the only one that has self-inflicted has done their own self-harm. Nobody in this room, nobody watching me has ever done their own self-harm.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yes. Rape, molestation, sexual abuse. Still stuck at 13, 17. It's in the room. How about the paralyzed? The word paralyzed means to be completely immobile of any kind of meaningful movement. So it's like I'm living, but I'm not making progress. 5 years have gone by, but I have not made progress. 10 years have gone by, but I have not made progress. I got a new job, I live in a new crib, but I'm still stuck 10 years ago. There are people in here paralyzed by fear. There are people I'm talking to paralyzed by crippling insecurities. You won't let yourself go. You hate your own self. Unwillingness to move forward. There are people I'm talking to right now, you're paralyzed by your comfort zone. You won't even dare step outside of it, is why you can't grow to the next level. You don't go to the next level in comfort zones. You have to be constantly uncomfortable to keep growing. So I lean into new relationships. I read a new book. I try something different. I say I'm sorry. I forgive someone I don't want to forgive. I try to step into a place that makes me feel insecure. You can't grow in a comfort zone. There's some of us paralyzed in progress because we love comfort. It is our permanent address. Help me, Holy Spirit. Some of us are paralyzed by pain. Pain won't let you move forward. Disappointment won't let you move forward. You're just stuck. It's in this room. But you know what else is in this room? The power of God Almighty. I said, not only are there not well people in this room, you know what else is in this room? The power of God Almighty is in this room. I wish I had somebody that would agree with that. I said the power of God Almighty is in this room to touch those who are not well, like me. I'm not well right now. I said the power of God Almighty is in this room to touch me even as I'm preaching to you, to give me strength in the middle of my weakness. The power of God is in this room. The power of God is in that chat to touch people who are not well. He ain't weak. I am. He ain't slack. I am. He ain't a liar. We are. He don't make mistakes. We do. I said the power of God Almighty is in this room to touch someone, anyone. Even the person with the microphone who was not well. The person who's hurting with the microphone, feeling his strength in the middle of my weakness. God is in this room to touch the one who is not. Who is not well. Verse 4 is the verse that is missing in modern translations. You will not find it in any accurate translation of the scriptures. It has been removed, and I'm going to tell you why. Verse 4. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after stirring up the water, was made well of whatever disease he had. Now, in ancient manuscripts, this verse does not appear in any ancient manuscript. And what is believed is that a scribe, the Bible was handed down by scribes, would hear people talking about this occurrence at the pool. And so to not lose the legend of the occurrence, he put it in a footnote on the side of a copy of the scriptures. And over time, somebody inserted it into the Word of God. More modern translations do not believe or cannot corroborate if this is true or not. So watch, historically, we don't know if this has ever happened. We can't say it never happened, but we're not sure if it happened. So more modern, accurate translations just put it as a footnote. So if you read this in a new translation, you will see there's no verse 4 in your scriptures. Because we're not sure if this really took place. Okay. We don't know. It began as a legend. Now listen to me carefully while I shared this verse with you. If this was a legend, again, we don't know if it was true, Rosa. But if this was a legend, Brittany, if this was a legend, if this was not true, if this was not a fact that an angelic being came down and stirred that water, because in the pool of Bethesda there was a subterranean chamber that was connected to a freshwater spring, and every now and then periodically that freshwater spring would run into the pool and it would cause the pool to bubble up. So whenever that happened, they would say an angel was troubling that water. Now that can happen. But we're not sure if it was happening. It was just talk around the pool. Now watch. If this did not happen, if this was a legend, then the sick people there believed in a broken religious view of God's grace that said first come, first served. So on any given day, he's not enough to heal anybody else except the first person to slip into the water. So if that legend is spreading, then I start to think of God as only a first come, first serve God. That if I'm not on the front of the line, he's not strong enough to help me if I'm sitting in the back of the room. As if I don't come down to the altar, he can't meet me in my chair or in a chat room. Now watch. If this is not true, but they believed it as a legend, what else would this do? It would create false hope in the hearts of sick people. Gosh. A perpetual false hope in the hearts of sick people, watch, that would keep bringing them back to this pool every single day. That's deep. That's deep. Not only if it's not true, it's bad theology. Like God ain't enough to heal everybody in the room. But if it's not true, it's like, man, I'm going to keep coming back to that pool, Andy, just hoping, watch, today might be the day. How long could you put up with that? I'm talking to y'all in the room. How long do you think you could put up with that? Why does this matter in context? Watch the next few verses carefully. Verse 5. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity. For 38 years. Let me say that to you again. A man kept coming back to that place for 38 years. It did not say he was 38 years old. We don't even know how old he was when his trauma began. But he kept coming back to that place for 38 years. That means he grew old going back to that pool. Was he married? Did he have children? Did he have friends? Did his wife leave him during that time? 75% of marriages end when injuries, with physical injuries or disease affect a marriage. A husband or wife don't want to care for their spouse. Did he lose his family during the process? I don't know. I know he was by himself. Did he lose his wife, his children? Where are his friends, his homeboys? Where's his prayer partners at? Where's his people? Where's his crew? Probably abandoned, no family. Stop sanitizing the scriptures like these are. That's why I don't use the word characters when I preach. These ain't characters in a book. These are real human beings who lived in history. This is a real man. If you read about your aunt or uncle going through this, how would that make you feel? You would feel sorry for them. When I read this, I feel, whoever this man was in history, I feel sorry for him. That he would keep coming back to this place with a hope for 38 years. I feel sorry for him. Like the Holy Spirit feels sorry for some of us who are not well and don't have a right theology to believe that we can be well. Because you think you are your trauma. You really believe you are your trauma. You've given it a name. You've made it a pet. You put it on a leash. You feed it. You give it water like my dogs. You keep it on a leash. You walk it outside and bring it back inside. It is my trauma. My sickness, my cancer, whatever it is, my pain from my past. In his case, right, 38 years is a long time to be nursing. What, can I be straightforward? 38 years, Alexis, is a long time to be nursing an injury, believing in a remedy that may never work. 38 years is a long time to be believing in a remedy that may never work. For him, possible superstition, I don't know, may never work. For you, your crystal will never work. Miss Cleo and your psychic reading and your horoscope will never work. Your new age philosophies will never work. Your reasonings against the scriptures will never work. Your unbelief in a God that exists will never work. Your false religious beliefs will never work. Can I go deeper? Your avoidance of the problem will never work. Can I go deeper? Your ownership of the problem as an identity will never work. You're trying to explain it away like it never happened, or don't exist, or they didn't touch you, or the rape didn't happen, or you didn't make a mistake. You can explain it away all you want. It will never work. Can I go deeper? You trying to bury it alive will never work. Because anything you bury alive, you're going to have to deal with it in another season. It will come up again. It has to be dealt with. You avoiding counseling will never work. You avoiding mentorship and coaching will never work. You being mad at God for the rest of your life will never work. 5 years won't work. 10 years won't work. 20 years, 38 years for him won't work. But what can work? Verse 6. When Jesus, the name that's above every name, the name that's giving me strength right now, when Jesus saw him lying there and knew, because he knows about your personal circumstance, he ain't blind and he's not deaf. And he ain't stupid. When Jesus knew, verse 6, that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, what the Spirit of God is saying something to you. Do you want to be made well? Jesus made it his business to go down to the place where people would avoid. Like his presence is in the room right now. I'm a pictorial person, so I see Jesus standing at the edge of that pool and looking over maybe 1,000 people. And he sees one person in the crowd who think that they're not seen by the Lord. He walks past all these other people. And finds one man that had enough, who had suffered enough, and looked him in his eyes and said to him, do you want to be made well? Not that I can't do it. Do you want to be made well? That seems so cruel to ask a man that's been bound for 38 years. Do you want to be well? Like, if I've been crippled for 30 years, don't you think I want to be made well? But Jesus knew about that man what he knows about a lot of us, that we really don't want to be made well. We really don't want to be made well. Right? First, see the compassion of Christ to even pick out this man, a sovereign choosing of one man. But for all my hyper-spiritual people, see the discretion of Christ, that he knew who his assignment was at the pool. Because everyone is not your assignment. You can't help everybody. There are some people you cannot help. I am not going to waste my time trying to counsel you because you don't want to be well. Not spending money on you because you don't want to be well. You really don't want that. Notice Jesus knew who his assignment was. I'm talking to the ministers in the room. Everyone is not your assignment. Every cry in the wilderness is not yours. You got to have enough discernment and maturity to walk past some cries and say, the Lord will send somebody else to deal with that. That's not my cry. And then you want to get mad at me because he won't write me back. Or won't pray for me about that. No, I'm not going to pray for you about that because you don't want to be made well. No, I'm not going to lay my hands on you because you don't want to be made well. You love your trauma. You love your trauma. You give identity to your trauma. It's part of your identity. You built a whole ministry around your trauma. So you just complain all the time and got an excuse all the time. All the time. You done tattooed it to your heart. We adopt trauma as part of our lot in life. Because my past was so graphic, I can never get past it. So we drift into acceptance. Watch, I'm gonna say something. So we drift into acceptance of, watch, changeable circumstances. Some things we will have to carry until glory. Some things we carrying are changeable circumstances. Why did the Lord ask him this question? Somebody talk to me. He's trying to test him. How bad do you really want to be made well? I've had altar calls, you've never moved. I've sent help, you've never responded. I've sent counselors, you don't listen. I've given you wisdom around other people, you don't take their advice. I've had people lay hands on you, you don't receive that. We've prayed for you, you don't want that. You be healed in the moment and then you go and get back that pet that we just prayed over. He's testing this man to see, do you really want what I can give you? Do you really want this change? You know what? Because if this beggar gets healed, now he has to go get a job. Oh, let's go deeper. If I change your life, now you're going to have new responsibilities. If I make you whole, now you're going to have new accountability. I'm going to expect more out of you now that I made you whole, because you can't carry that drama anymore. See, if I make you well, now I can hold you accountable. Do you really want to be made well? If I deliver you from being a beggar, nobody's just going to be tossing you free money anymore. Now you got to go work. If I deliver you from being a beggar, now you got to go work. No more somebody tossing you bread. Now you got to go earn that bread. Are you ready for new responsibility? Are you ready for new accountability? Are you ready to go back and apologize to the people you hurt now that I've made you well? Now that I've made you whole, are you ready to go back and own some of the mistakes that you made? Like, because while you're not well, people are going to keep feeling sorry for you. But if I make you well, are you ready now to handle the responsibilities that come with being made whole? if I change your life, are you ready to really follow me now? I thought I made you whole 5 years ago. You still involved in that? See, that's accountability. Y'all missed that. I thought I touched you 5 years ago at that conference. You still involved in that? See, you don't really want to be well because you love that too much to be well. You love that too much to be made well. Do you have a real desire for it? Let's finish. Verse 7. The sick man answered him, Sir, I have no man to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. Notice, he did not just say to Jesus, yes, I want to be made well. He gives the Lord an excuse. You would think if I've been crippled, Rhonda, for 38 years, and I might be in my 70s now, and the Lord walks over a crowd to find me in my corner of the pool and asks me, Philip, do you want to be made well? You would think I will look up at him with my legs crippled and say, yes. I want to be made well. Please intervene in my circumstance. Please, Lord. Please, Lord, intervene in my circumstance. I don't want to be here any longer. Yes, I want to be made well. Please intervene, Lord. Please intervene. I am open to whatever that looks like. If I got to move, if I got to get a new job, if I got to go say I'm sorry, if I got to submit to counseling, if I got to put down the alcohol, the drugs, yes, I want to be made well. Whatever I got to do, yes, I want all of it. No, Lord, I don't have no man to help me in the pool. Instead of just saying, I want that, he makes an excuse. We do the same thing. You do the same thing. You got an excuse for every trauma. You don't want to be made well. But they did, it did, that did. We know the story. Now, what do you want to do about it? We know the story, but do you want glory to intersect that story? I think I need to say that again. We know your story. Do we want glory to intersect your story? Like, have you had, who could finish this? Enough. Have you had enough? He makes an excuse, right? I'm almost finished. You know what else he did? He blamed somebody else. I'm talking to you. I have no man, Andy, to put me in the pool. I don't want to take no ownership or responsibility for being made well. So he blames somebody else for the trauma. It's that person's fault. There's nobody to help me, as if they would only help me, I would be made well. Really? You've gotten a lot of help and still are not well. So he blames somebody else. It's my child's fault. It's my spouse's fault. It's the counselor's fault. It's, watch this, y'all love this one. It's the church's fault. It's the pastor's fault. Like, you can't read the Bible for yourself. It's anybody else's fault, fill in the blank. What else does he do? He clings to the ritual that kept him at the pool for 38 years. I have nobody to put me in the water when it's stirred up. What if that wasn't true? So you're still hanging on to this remedy that's not working. How long are you going to hang on to that if it does not work? When are you going to be willing, watch, to try a new thing? Maybe you got to go to a Healing the Heart retreat. Maybe you got to tell the truth about the whole story. When are you willing to try something else?
Let me finish up. Jesus says to him what I believe the Spirit of God is saying to many of the lame, paralyzed, and blind people in this room and watching me right now. Verse 8 and 9 is what the Spirit of God is saying to you. Verse 8, and Jesus said to him, rise, take up your bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made well. He took up his bed and walked, and that day was the Sabbath. I'm done, Sam. Look at what Jesus said to him. I know you want to get to the restaurant. Let me get you out, right? You don't want this word. You don't want the next thing I'm about to tell you. Now, they don't want me to take my time, brother. You don't want the next thing I'm about to tell you. I said, I'm done, Sam. No, I'm done. They don't, I'm done because I feel y'all don't want what I'm about to say next. Just hold one note. You don't want what I'm about to say next. Jesus told him, watch this, rise, take up your bed, and walk. Let me say this to you again. Jesus told him, rise, take up your bed, and walk. I'm going to give you an example because it didn't hit you yet. My sister, do me a favor. Just stand up.
Come on, Jesus.
I didn't touch her legs to do that.
Come on.
You ready for this? She had to make her own effort.
Come on.
She had to make her own effort to get up. I just gave a command. She had to make a decision that she wants to be made, and she had to use her own legs to stand up. I'm talking to people in this room who got real trauma. Somebody watching me that has real trauma, and you wondering where God is. Some of you, your trauma won't leave you until you make an effort to be made well. You have to make an effort. The marriage is not going to get better on its own. Your heart is not going to be healed on its own. Your mind is not going to be healed on its own. Some of you got trauma and won't read. You got trauma, you won't spend the money for counseling, you won't go to a retreat, you won't talk to your pastor, you keep lying to yourself, and you're sitting in the back of a prison and the door is wide open. You don't want to walk out. How long are you going to hold on to that story before you make an effort to be made well? Jesus could have grabbed him by his hand and pulled him up. He did not do that. He's still testing him. Rise. Make an effort. I heard your excuse, one E. Now I give you another E. Make an effort. I don't have nobody put me in a pool. Excuse. Rise. Effort. I don't have nobody put me in a pool. Excuse. Rise. Effort. I don't have nobody to put me in the pool. Excuse. Rise. Effort. I had to make an effort to be here today. I tell you the truth, I was not going to be here today. I don't even feel like talking to nobody. I am hurting badly. I don't even want to talk. I had to cry myself here. It's one thing to lose a relative through sickness or car accident, not for someone to be bludgeoned to death and burned in the back of a car. I'm hurt. And caring for her daughters and my parents, my step-parents, her biological parents who are hurting deeply, and I'm there every day, 10 hours, 8 hours. That's all I've been doing since Thursday. I'm tired and I'm weary. And when I leave here, I gotta go back to be with them to make sure they're not alone. From sun up to sundown, I've been with my step-parents to keep them comforted. They're 94, 96. I can't leave them by themselves. I'm tired and I'm weary, and I had to make an effort to be here and trust that God would give me strength to do this. You got to make an effort for you to be made well. I'm tired, but I had to make an effort. I know you're tired of your trauma, but you got to make an effort. I know you was raped. I know you was abused. I know you was sexually assaulted. I know you lost a job. I know you went through a traumatic divorce. I know you had a bad childhood. I know you had a dysfunctional past. I know. It don't matter. God knows. And Jesus finds him later in the temple when people are talking about his healing. It says, get rid of your sin, lest a worse thing come upon you. Read the rest of the chapter. I don't got time. Because there is something worse than 38 years a cripple, and that is eternity without God. So while I deal with your legs, I also want to deal with your heart and your sin. I'd rather be crippled in this life and be in heaven than walk in this life and be eternally separated from God. And now, in my own weakness, I want to pray for every person in this room who's dealing with any measure of trauma. Childhood trauma, adult trauma, current trauma, children trauma, husband trauma, wife trauma, dysfunctional past trauma, physical issues in your body trauma. I want to pray for every person that's dealing with trauma. Everyone watching me, because I want you to make an effort to be made well. Some physical trauma we may have to carry till we get to glory. Like, I may not be healed of this ear injury, but God has given me grace. And if the healing for the trauma is grace, I'll take that. And if God can make me well, for some of you, I think today is the beginning of your road towards healing for your trauma. Now I want you to make an effort. I'm only going to pray for those of you. If you're in the chat, I want to pray for people. How do I want to do this, Holy Spirit? They got to make an effort. If you're in the chat, say, it's me. If you're in the room, stand to your feet, rise. Only those who are dealing with real trauma. I don't even need to know what it is. It's your business and God's business. You make an effort. You could sit in your chair and front like God don't know about your trauma. Let him walk past you right now in this moment. Or you could be honest, like, watch, I've had enough. I've been dealing with this since I was a child. I've been dealing with this since I was a young adult. I'm dealing with this right now. I've had enough. I've had enough. Your eyes are closed. Your heart is fixed on the only one that can help you in this moment. Not a sermon, not a man. Just let the Spirit of God move right now in the room. You know what it is. You know your trauma. You know that crippling insecurity. Your sexual identity struggles, your dysfunctional past, your troubled marriage and relationships, divorce, on the brink of divorce. sickness and disease, weariness, tired, whatever it is that is crushing you. I'm talking to you who is watching me right now, wherever you are on the other side of that camera. Now, Spirit of the living God, I pray for every single person under the sound of my voice who, like our brother, has been crippled in some area of their life. 1 year, my heir, Lord. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, you know. Trauma all across this room, paralyzed, lame, and blind. Watching me across this camera. I pray for all of them who are making an effort right now of faith, saying, it's me on the other side of the camera, or they're standing on their feet in faith. I pray, Spirit of the living God, you would do right now what my sermon will never do. That you would intervene in their trauma. Mental trauma, intervene. Emotional trauma, intervene. Spiritual trauma, intervene. Relational trauma, intervene. Baggage from the past, intervene. Broken marriage, intervene. Divorce, intervene. Hurt so deep the counselor couldn't reach, intervene. Let this moment be the beginning of the road to healing from trauma. All manner of trauma. We hear you, God, saying, do you, my son or my daughter, want to be made well? Lord, I respond for all of them with a resounding yes. We want to be made well. I want my mom and pop to be made well. I want my 2 nieces to be made well. I want my brother to be made well. I want my family who is suffering the loss of Marita Harrell to be made well. Make us well. And whatever we must carry, give us grace to carry it. We say your grace is sufficient for whatever it is. May it be a testimony. You told him take up his bed and walk. That bed was his testimony. You told him to carry the thing he was laying on as his testimony. I pray for healing, for increased desire and effort. In Jesus' name. If you receive it, if you actually receive it and you believe it, I want you to show God some way, somehow, that you actually receive it and you believe it. I want you to show him some way, somehow that you...
Thank you for listening to the Victory Broadcast. We pray that message was a blessing to you. If you have a story or a testimony to share, we want to hear all about it. Send us an email to share@victorychurchatl.org or visit us online under share. Thanks for listening. Go in peace.